Hi, I'm Kay Wilson. I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, and I am the founder of Northern Connections Canada Immigration. Welcome to our channel. Today, we'll be looking at some upcoming changes to the National Occupational Classification System, or the NOC system for short. So, the Government of Canada announced some changes to this system that will have some significant impacts across programs. Now let's look at what is the NOC system. The National Occupational Classification System is a system that's used in Canada to classify occupations or jobs based on the duties that are required to perform the job. So for each job, they will also identify the skill that's required to perform each job. And this will determine how the job is classified. Currently, we have different skill levels and types. Okay, so we have skill type O, which are managerial jobs. Skill level A, these are professional jobs that requires a degree from a university. There is skill level B. These are technical and skilled trades jobs that usually call for a diploma, a college diploma, or training as an apprentice. And we have skill level C. Skill level C jobs are intermediate jobs that usually call for high school or job-specific training. And finally, there is skill level D. These are labor jobs that usually give on-the-job training. Now, this is the current structure, and our immigration programs use the NOC to determine if your job or your work experience meets the eligibility. Right? So this is the current system. And so you will need to know your NOC in order to apply for not most really, all permanent residence programs in Canada. And so, of course, if there is a major overhaul in this system, then everyone will be impacted. Some NOCs may be easier to differentiate than others, depending on the job that you do. So I would recommend getting professional help to ensure that you're selecting the right NOC. Okay, so let's talk about the change. Why this change in the NOC system, right? Every 10 years, the NOC undergoes some major structural changes, and the framework and the existing occupational groups are reviewed. Now, this is being done in 2021. And the last one that we would have had was NOC 2016. The idea is that it will reflect changes in the economy and the nature of work. So this is usually done in consultation with different government departments, such as the IRCC. So that's the Immigration and that is the IRCC, the Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada. That's the Immigration Department. And another one might be ESDC, Employment and Social Development Canada. One example would be people who work online, right? You'll find that there are some types of jobs that we do currently that we may not have done in the last 10 years. So maybe 10 years ago, we would not have done these jobs. And so things have changed. The way people are working changes. We're now in a technological age, and some jobs would not have been previously reflected in the NOC system. So that's one reason for changes. Additionally, the current system looks at the skill level that they classify a job as, whereas it may not necessarily be the only thing that we should be looking at when we're classifying a job. It might be looking at the responsibilities or the education that's required for the job, and the experience, right? And the current system does not necessarily take that into account, right? And so some people, even personally with my clients, some people have found it very difficult to find a NOC that matches what they do, especially if your job is not one of those traditional ones. So when will the change become effective? With this new system, we'll be changing from the NOC 2016 to the NOC 2021. It is expected to be implemented and become the official classification system used by the ESDC in the second half of 2022. So that is in the spring. So we expect to see some announcements on the IRCC's website indicating when and how these changes will be implemented and how the programs will be impacted. The changes being made are definitely significant, and the NOC 2021 includes structural changes such as the addition, aggregation, or merging and splitting of some unit groups, as well as the reorganization of certain groups across broad categories. We're moving from the skill level system to a tier system, and that's TEER for tier, and that stands for training, education, experience, and responsibilities. The new 2021 NOC structure will also include an overhaul of the current 4-category skill level structure, and they will introduce a new 6-category structure representing the tier, right, for every different occupation. It also adopts a 5-tiered hierarchical arrangement of occupational groups with successive levels of deaggregation containing broad occupational categories. So basically, they will have major groups, subgroups, minor groups, and unit groups. And I know this all sounds confusing, but there will definitely be a table that will be released, and we'll be able to see exactly where you fall in that table, okay, and how the changes will impact you. They will also introduce a brand new 5-digit coding system to replace the current 4-digit system. Those are some of the major changes that we're expecting to see with this overhauling of the NOC system. So, how will this new system work? This new tier categorization redefines the requirements of occupations by reconsidering the type of education, training, and experience required for entry, as well as the complexities and responsibilities for each occupation. So, in general, the range and complexity of occupational tasks and the amount of formal education and training that's required, previous on-the-job training, and so on will be taken into consideration. So they will have 6 tiers. So there will be tier, and again, tier is TEER, so tier 0, and tier 0 will be management occupations. Tier 1 will be those jobs which will require university education or previous work experience. Tier 2, occupations usually requiring post-secondary education of 2 to 3 years or apprenticeship training of at least 2 years. There is also a Tier 3, which includes occupations requiring less than 2 years of post-secondary education or training. And then we have a Tier 4 and a Tier 5, which are occupations usually requiring a high school diploma or no formal education. So that is a breakdown of how the tier system will look. It is similar to how we have the different, the current system with the skill level and skill types. The only difference being it is broken down a bit further, especially for those who are in the NOC B category. All right. And so in terms of the impacts, we expect to see most impact in the NOC B occupations, where 42% of the jobs were previously distributed, and they will breaking this down a bit more. The temporary foreign worker program will also see significant impacts, as the education and training for occupations will definitely change, and this can impact workers' eligibility for LMIAs and also rates of pay. So, for example, if higher education or training is required for a position, then the median wage, of course, may change as a result. So based on our analysis of the preliminary structure that's been released, we have seen where NOC B jobs will see the most impact. There might be some jobs that are currently classified as NOC B that may be pushed down to where we would usually have a NOC C, right? So that's something to look out for. They did indicate that the structure is still in review. So we're waiting to see what additional information may be released prior to that time. For those in express entry or looking to enter express entry eligibility for certain occupations, again, especially for those with NOC B occupations, will be impacted. So you may find that someone who previously qualified may not, depending on where your NOC B occupation falls. For those in NOC A or NOC O currently, you will not see any significant changes. We expect major changes in express entry eligibility, as currently only NOC O, A, or B occupations are eligible for the express entry system, right? So those, as I mentioned, in NOC B will be significantly impacted. With the new tier system, we expect to see some updates from the IRCC fairly soon. As more information is released, we'll definitely get that information out to you. So a key takeaway from this will be your NOC will absolutely for sure change once this rolls out in 2022. If you already know your NOC and you have already done your research on that, I wouldn't worry too much, as they will publish a comparison chart and you'll be able to see different tools to make the transition smoother. If you are already having difficulties identifying your NOC, then it may be a little bit more tedious for you, even with the new system. I always recommend getting professional help, especially around the NOC classification and identification, just because the NOC that you select plays such an important role when you're applying for permanent residence programs. And so you want to ensure that you're selecting the right NOC that matches most closely with your job duties, right? Reach out to us if you need help with identifying your NOC and ensuring that you're selecting the right NOC. Our information is on the screen. All right. And where it will likely get complicated is for those who are looking to work in Canada and meeting the NOC requirements for being awarded the job. This may mean getting additional education or training requirements based on the new structure and requirements. We'll let you know more information about this when more information is released. Okay, so don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful, subscribe to our channel, and I'll catch up with you guys next time.